My guest today is Canadian singer-songwriter, Juno and Polaris Prize nominated musician. Albums such as Avalanche, Youth, Someday the Moon Will Be Gold. Kalle Mattson, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, I read somewhere, I think it said you were named after John Cale. Is that like J.J. Cale, the musician like with Eric Clapton, or is John Cale someone else?
John Cale was in the Velvet Underground, had a successful solo career as well. Yeah, I guess at least my name is actually Finnish, but I guess enunciation was inspired by John Cale.
And you were born and raised in Sault Ste. Marie?
Yep. Yes, I was.
And you're based out of Ottawa now. Are you in Ottawa right now? Are you in the Sault now, or where are you now?
Yeah, I'm in Ottawa. I've lived here since I went to school here, and basically, I started writing songs and everything at school, and then just ended up touring so much that it didn't matter as much where I lived. And, now it's home, I guess.
Have you heard of Broken Stick Brewing Company? They're in Ottawa.
There's so many breweries. It's ridiculous. There's more breweries than like bands. It's the new thing.
And podcasts too.
That's right.
Dessert Storm from Broken Stick Brew Co. It's the perfect morning beer. It's the perfect morning beer. Dessert Storm is a pastry stout with coffee, cacao, cinnamon, and vanilla. And guess what? It contains lactose. Dessert Storm, Broken Stick Brew Co.
You're selling it to me hard here. Yeah, I'll check it
out. So how are you staying active musically and proactive during this time, whether it's practicing or maintaining?
Yeah, good question. Like when this first started, I was in Banff, doing a songwriting residency at the Banff Center. And it was like probably the most productive I've been in terms of writing, maybe ever in my life. Honestly, it was like, it's so idyllic. It's like, it's songwriter like camp. And you're with, 20 other whatever songwriters from all around the world. And you're basically just set up to write and don't have to think about anything else. And then about halfway through it, it was like, oh, this thing's real. Okay, well, we don't really know. And then it got cut short and we all flew home, and it felt like the world was ending and we're in like the mountains, getting to focus on what is an inherently selfish thing, which is writing songs. And then sort of come back to like, we had to quarantine for 14 days and all these things are basically set up to not be creative in my mind anyway. Like anxiety is usually not a good fueler or a good fueler, but like a good fuel for creativity and writing and feeling productive. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that I haven't been super active in that, but we were in the studio in September recording some songs and we've gone through the whole mix process and everything. So I feel like I'm like actually doing my job again, but I'd say for the majority of the summer I felt almost no desire, or at the very least like no, just the ideas weren't coming. And where I'm at in like the cycle right now, we released, I had this new project called Summersets, and we were, the first song was supposed to come out the week everything shut down. And then like the second single was supposed to come out the week of the Black Lives Matter protests. And everything was set up and sort of was hijacked by forces out of our control. And not like, me putting out a record is really, a big deal or anything, or that important in the grand scheme of things. But it felt like we were just getting like everything we had built up, because the Summersets record we had obviously worked on for, pretty much a year before. And then it comes out and, we can't tour, and there's not a lot of press because a lot of those writers are either not writing or they're working on other things other than music. And it was very, very odd and sort of disheartening, but I think there's some light at the end of this coming through now.
So I'm sure you have a bunch of instruments at home. Are you practicing at home, even in your spare time? Because obviously, I guess you can't. Can you get together with people, still being safe and stuff? Are you in that kind of zone, or?
No, and I mean, like, that's not really how I ever write. Writing is like a very solitary thing for me. It's me and a guitar, and obviously, yeah, and a million guitars and whatnot. But the Summersets record, Andrew, who's my partner in it, him and I co-wrote a bit. So we've been like swapping, ideas or demos back and forth. But outside of a few live stream things, I haven't really been like in the same room as people and like making music in the same room as other folks.
Do you think like it's almost like stand-up comedians, like when you do come back, there might be some rust to shake off when you start performing live again?
Every concert you'll see, whenever they start to happen again, will suck. I mean, especially like the timing and a lot of the things, like, there's a reason, if you see a show at the end of a tour, usually the band is like way better by then, because it's a muscle, you got to work it, and no one has really worked it. And I don't care what anyone says, like playing, I've done some Zoom concerts and some live stream stuff, like that's not the same thing. Yeah, I mean, I also don't think anyone will care, because by the time, we can all go see shows again, I'm hoping, if there's still venues left in the world to play, that people will be really into just going out and being able to see stuff again.
Just happy to be there kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt you'll be putting on a good show. Everyone will be bringing it. They'll be right back to it, given that they're all, even, you know what, maybe with more oomph, because everybody's more appreciative than they were before, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it'll be real low-hanging fruit. Just the fact that you're there is good enough.
So I wanted to ask you said you did a couple Zoom things, because that was on my question. Have you been performing in any way through Zoom or socially distanced in any way? So you said it's obviously not your favorite, but how did those go? Were they for corporate things? Were they for charity, donation? Were they for yourself?
All of the above now, actually. I mean, they're fine. I mean, it's weird, but like, you just sort of, I think people are just sort of, the average person, I think, is just excited to hear some sort of connection, and whether that be through like a screen, whatever. For me, it's not, I don't know. It's just like I'm playing songs in my living room. I mean, that's what it feels like. It doesn't really feel real. There's no like interaction or anything from an audience. You're just, again, playing. It's no different than you and I talking right now, to me.
Right. You're going to want to feed off that energy. Every show's different kind of thing.
Mm.
You always do a Christmas show in the Sioux. Do you have any Christmas virtual shows planned or anything planned at all for Christmas? Or are you just going to take it easy?
No Christmas shows. I don't know. I never really thought of that, actually. You're putting it in my mind. I don't know. Like, I honestly think, like, especially, I think there's a bit of people are a bit tired. I think it's a bit oversaturated, the live stream thing. And I think when everyone's doing it and it's essentially all free and just like you can come in and out of it on Instagram or whatever, I think it loses a bit of its value. And I'm sure it's great for people with huge audiences and followings and stuff. But for someone like me, I think there's better ways to go about sort of maintaining relevance or in people's minds. So no, I don't think I'm going to do anything like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because that's kind of the nice thing. I've been to a couple of your shows, one at Lop Lops, one at Rivoli. They're more intimate. They're smaller venues, so it's got that intimate vibe to it, even if there's still 100 or 200 people there. Yeah.
I mean, like, it all feels very weird to me. I mean, I hate FaceTiming. It's even worse when you're like, singing your feelings and you get no reaction for it either.
So I know you mentioned Summersets. You did work on that for about a year, you said. Have you been taking this time to work on a new album beyond that? Or is Summersets kind of, oh, you have?
Oh yeah, yeah. I started writing it, I guess, last summer. The songs for the EP, and they I wrote one song called "Never Love Another," which was like it's this 6 verse song that tells like a real narrative story song, which I've never really done before, and is um, I think, as any songwriter will tell you, is a hard thing to do. There's a lot of like landmines that you have to avoid, I think, to make them interesting and to not to actually like make it effective. And I wrote one, and I was really happy with it and really proud of it. And I thought, well, there's like a whole record in here. Like, what if, I wrote a bunch more songs in this world with these characters? I think, there's more story to tell than just this one song. So I started to write. And basically, we got like a 6-song EP, which came out in August, called Small Town Saturday. And the whole idea was that we were going to keep writing and make it a full-length record and take some of the songs from the EP and then um, make a whole sort of big story record. So that's what we're doing right now. That's what we were in the studio working on in September. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know when it's going to come out. I think we're sort of, I'm sort of the rule right now that I don't want to put anything out until I can play shows, because I mean, it's a huge part of promoting it and like recouping your investment in making it. And if it's a really weird feeling to just toss, what you've worked on the internet and like pray people find it and listen to it. And luckily, the Somerset stuff has actually responded really well, especially on streaming sites, which is so odd for a band with started in March with 0 fans and 0 followers on everything. But it's it feels like you work for basically a year and you throw it out, and okay, like there's no gratification or like real evidence that like people connected with this or heard it. It's just numbers on a screen or you know some press or whatever. But I've released a lot of records in my life, and it's a weird, really weird way to put one out.
So just to give some detail to the audience, in April 2020, your new duo project, Summersets, it's yourself and Andrew Sacco, who was in the band with you previously, and you guys have been playing music together for 7 years, and he's your longest collaborator.
Yeah. Andrew played bass in my live band for I think the first tour we did was our first West Coast like cross Canada tour, and so I've played music with Andrew for a really long time. And we started this project because I had these songs that are really different feeling than what I was usually writing. But also on the last tour for my record Youth, we were doing all these basically in the middle of the set. Andrew and I would do basically like Simon and Garfunkel versions of my songs, just the two of us, 2 acoustic guitars. And Youth was a really like big sounding record. There was a lot of production. I was really into and really trying to write big, tight, terse pop songs. Obviously not like pop, but that's what I was really into, like hooks, and trying to write all in that style, which is a style I still love, but maybe didn't come the most natural to me. And Andrew and I would strip all these songs back and play them, as folky and, like I said, Simon and Garfunkel versions. And I liked that so much more than playing the big, huge band versions with backing tracks and like, so I was like, okay, well, I'm, something is clearly telling me that this is the road to go down. And I had all these different songs, and I just loved singing with Andrew. So we just started this project, and it's sort of at least what I'm really focused on right now. I don't even have any thoughts or desires to write anything under my own name for a while.
And it says, picture this: two people meet in a small town, Northern Ontario, on a Saturday night as summer is coming to an end. A chance encounter that eventually will define the narrative the rest of their lives. That is both the story that runs through the music of Summersets and also how the new duo's members, Kalle Mattson and Andrew Saka, met growing up in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario.
We recorded it all with my friend Jim Bryson, just outside of Ottawa. Jim's a really accomplished producer and sideman. I mean, he's played and solo songwriter, played, with Kathleen Edwards since the very beginning and produced her last record. And he's toured with The Hip and the Weaker Thans, and he's played on a lot of my records now. And so we worked with Jim on everything, and it was really just the three of us playing on it all, and recorded very quickly. Which was also very counter to my last record, which took like almost 3 years to make. So we were going in there and basically like absolutely finishing a song in, a day and a half every time. And it was just like all these things are just basically counter to how I made music for the past few years. And also just as like the guiding light in it all was, okay, what's fun? What feels fun again? Because I mean, ultimately it should be fun, but and it is work. I mean, like I've been lucky for this to be my job for a long time, but to go and just the whole thing is like, hey, I'm gonna make songs with my friend and record them really quickly and like organically and naturally, and all these ways that we're not overthinking it and we're not obsessing over like, a synth part for 3 weeks or something. Like it was very instinctual, and I think you can hear that. And I think I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know how other people hear my music. I mean, I'm never going to be awarded that sort of perspective, but I hope that people hear it and it sounds like, we're having fun and we weren't too precious about it. In terms of the recording, and then hopefully the writing, you can hear that there's a lot of work that has gone into making all these puzzle pieces fit, because to write a concept record from sort of centers around two characters that goes through, I think what's going to end up being like 15 songs, and to have a beginning and middle end and like other plot points in it has been incredibly hard. But also like really fun, and hopefully it'll all work in the end. I can't see how it won't at this point, because now I've got at least 60% of it written, and we're, I guess, somewhere around 40-ish% recorded. So it's coming together, but it's like it's fairly ambitious on a songwriting front. Andrew and I are both from the Sioux. He's a year older than me, and we went to different high schools, but both from the Sioux, met in the Sioux.
Where was this party or whatever that you guys met?
I don't remember I think we met at a show. So I don't think it was a party, but I mean, like the whole record we've set in, I guess, an anonymous sort of small town Saturday. But in my mind, as I'm writing it, is the Sioux, and using a lot of different sort of memories, and that's like what it is in my head. But I'm not trying to be that specific. So hopefully, everyone's from a small town. I'm sure you can insert yourself into it, hopefully.
Oh, it's great. I mean, that's just everything. It's like Green Day or whatever. You take, they make a concept album of American Idiot, and then you add like your own grandeur to it or whatever you want to do. Like, it's not going to be detail for detail of your life, right? There's going to be some things that mean something to you. Some things you're just like, oh, that's just like that flows nicely, or there's all sorts of different aspects, right?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I've found, and I've written a lot of very like personal records, and I found that across the board, there's more universality and specificity. So the more specific you get, usually people relate to it more. I think the overall emotion or sentiment you need to be saying, I think needs to be universal. But I mean, all my favorite songwriters, and I love when they get really specific, and I feel like it makes the song more real to me. And when it really clicks for me is when it's something I've thought about or something I've experienced as well, and then I'm gonna love that forever. And I've had that experience with a lot of just a ton of musicians and songwriters. And
Who are some of your inspirations for songwriters?
I mean, all the sort of like obvious, like Mount Rushmore of songwriters, Dylan and Springsteen and Paul Simon. But I guess like newer things, I guess maybe things that I was like, the things that I still listen to from high school are, Wilco and The Weaker Thans and Gillian Welch. Those are ones I always sort of go back to. And those folks are they're always sort of going to be like the touchstones for what I really like in writing.
Who was someone you met through your travels, musician or something that maybe you looked up to and they delivered upon meeting them? They were actually like a good person and all that too.
I mean, I have a lot of stories of terrible people too. There's a lot of, when you open for bands a lot, and which is, what everyone does for a long period of time, you take note of who are assholes to you. There's been, so Gillian Welch, I met Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings at a festival, and they were like secret guests of Conor Oberst. So they played, they sang some songs together, and then Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings, she gave me my first ever shot of tequila, and it was really awesome. I mean, they told a bunch of stories, like it was great. They were fantastic and like super nice and like somehow humble while like talking about having dinner with Bob Dylan. And I think they had just sung Sound of Silence with Paul Simon like a week before, and they were telling us about that, and it was great. I mean, they couldn't have been nicer, and like we were playing the festival too, but they didn't know who we were or anything, and they were just so sweet. And so yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
So I saw you were quoted as saying after your last solo album, you were a bit beaten down. Why?
Yeah. I mean, on a lot of fronts, I think, I had 2 records before that really sort of built my career up in a lot of ways, and a lot of really good things happened. And, like, I think the idea was we were going to make a big record, and we're going to like swing for the fence a bit and try to, Avalanche was a really successful song for me. In a lot of ways, the music video did a lot of things for me, but also it was successful on radio and a lot of, in that vein. And we spent our long time making that record, Youth. And, I put just a ton of work into it and really wanted to make it great and really, like I said, swing for the fence on it, like try to have, I don't know about a hit. I mean, probably that was sort of like the goal, I guess. But then it comes out, and I think it's funny, like it got really good reviews and it seemed to get a good response, but it didn't move the needle in terms of my career in any way. Like it was just sort of a flat line, sort of. It came out and we played some shows and that was it, like it wasn't, it didn't do all the things that when you have 3 years to make something and you're thinking about something every day, you put a lot of expectations on it. And for me personally, it felt like a bit of a failure, coming from where I came from. And that's really hard, especially when, like I said, you spend so much time and energy making something. And I love that record, and hopefully maybe it'll people keep finding it. I don't know. But yeah, it was just, it's hard. And, every artist is going to go through something like that, I'm sure. But that's why we sort of pivoted to this new thing and got excited about something new, because that's what you do.
Yeah, it said once you started collaborating with Andrew again, you were re-energized and music was fun again, which you mentioned earlier, following the fun.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's hard to describe to anyone. I mean, maybe folks that are listening are musicians, and like when you spend 3 years of your life making a thing, and it comes out and it doesn't do all the things that you put on it, because it's really hard to make music when you've put out a bunch of records under your own name and got a lot of great things happen. You got to tour the world and all these huge accomplishments that you didn't think were going to be possible when you first started, and then you put all these expectations on yourself and the music you're making, and when it doesn't succeed in those sort of benchmarks that you put for yourself, it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to like apologize for being ambitious with what I want out of my career and what my records do. I mean, I want people to hear them, and when it falls short of that, it's just, it's like, it's hard. That's it.
So when I heard that, I wasn't sure if it was maybe the process, but it sounds more like the result, all the time you put into it and the result of it.
Oh, the process was hard too.
Gotcha. I was wondering what kind of creative control you had.
I mean, I had a lot. It was more just when you have infinite time, you start to overthink everything. And when you overthink everything, it's like, I think, you just become very precious about stuff, and just small decisions end up becoming big when they shouldn't be. And we recorded that record like everywhere, like LA, Vancouver, Toronto, the Sioux, Ottawa. We recorded it in all these places, all these incredible studios. And it took too long. I'm sure we could have made pretty much the same record in like at least a year shorter. So it was all those things. It's like, it's just not a way I'd like to make music again.
So after that, you released a new single called Back to the Start. So It's clear there's no hidden meaning there. You said you were beaten down. You release a new single called Back to the Start. Like, it's very clear. So why don't we go back to the start a little bit? So back to your roots. So 2008, you released a 6 EP, Telescope.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I made like 15 copies of me singing songs in my basement. I don't know if that's a release. I don't know who has them. I don't have them. They're the first 6 songs I wrote. I was 18, and I just like, we burned CDs and put them in like sleeves we like hand sewn, and I mean, it is what it is. It's anyone's first sort of document of them writing songs.
You've been playing music for like a long time before that, and then just decided to start recording stuff with friends? Or
I recorded it all myself, and I don't know how I even like had the gall to do that. I am like the least engineer-y guy. I can't say I love like the technical aspect of recording. I like recording music. I like playing guitar in front of nice microphones. I don't get any real pleasure out of like finding sounds and stuff. But I don't know. I was like this blind, confidence you have that, in your teenage years, to think that you have something important to say and you know how to do this thing. So it was the first 6 songs I wrote. And no, I hadn't been writing at all that long. I think, I started playing guitar when I was like 13, 14. And then I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you like the steps that I went in my head, though, where I was like, cool, like I'm going to write songs and I'm going to be a songwriter and I'm going to record. Like, I don't remember doing that. And it seems crazy to me now. But yeah.
When did you find your voice, do you think? It was not on that first EP.
No.
When did you find your voice?
I think Someday the Moon Will Be Gold was like the first thing that I can listen to now that I'm not horrified by. I think there's always like, I think there was probably like hints of it on the earlier stuff, but I mean, I was really young and I wrote and released records really quickly. I think my first full length record, Whisper Bee, was like, the next 12 songs. And I just got lucky that I got to record them in my high school because we had a recording studio. And our teacher and friend, producer, Mark Goff, he recorded everything and really took me under his wing and let me do what I do. And at least I learned a lot in that process. But again, those are, if you're going to release the first 18 songs you ever wrote, I sadly have them all documented on records. And then we recorded another record a year and a half later. We just got lucky. I don't think bands get lucky in terms of being able to record things in a professional manner so early and for so little money, because Mark did everything for free basically. And that was awesome. And we learned, I learned a lot doing it, but I have a whole sort of back catalog of, me sort of trying to figure out how to do this thing. And I don't think people usually work their way up to that.
So you did the 2009 in the school, and then 2011, there was a stop animation video for Thick as Thieves off Anchors that kind of gave you guys your first widespread success.
Yeah. Again, Anchors, we recorded in the high school as well. Some different people played on it, but I think, there's parts of that record I think I'd probably still, I mean, I haven't listened to it in years, but I think there's probably something in those songs. My friend Kevin Perry is also from the Sioux. He's sort of become this huge, I mean, he was already sort of a stop motion animation star, and now he's become this huge stop motion influencer on the internet. And he's worked on a bunch of big movies for Leica. He worked on a bunch of those movies. I couldn't remember all the names, but yeah, he's he made those first few music videos, and they did really well on the internet. Sort of viral music videos when that before in and around when that really mattered and could really get you a lot of press and some eyeballs. I'm not sure if that's as possible now, but yeah, we were pretty savvy in terms of that stuff really early on.
And then 2014, Someday the Moon Will Be Gold. Beautiful album. I love that album. And you said
Thanks.
It was the album that kind of changed things for yourself, or you found that it really cemented you as an artist? You were nominated for a bunch of awards, you won a bunch of awards.
Yeah, that was a big one. Looking back on it, it's put out that record, and we had no, I think the only person I had on my team was a publicist. I was managing myself, I was booking my own shows. And then after that, it was we toured Canada, and I don't know, I mean, it's a lot. And then we toured Europe. I did 4 tours of Europe in 1 year. So we had a label there, and we got all this music and, all those things that happen when something connects with people, it all happened. So that was the biggest jump, I think. Yeah, I'm still proud of that record. I mean, again, I haven't listened to it in years, but I'm sure there's some good stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, there is some great stuff. What can you tell me about a couple of my favorite songs from it? A
Sure.
Love Song to the City. Is that about the Sioux?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that whole record's about my mom and when she passed away when I was 16. And it's sort of the whole record's about, I wrote most of it in the Sioux. So a lot of it's sort of just coming to terms with that. And, a lot of the songs are about her or various things, but Love Song to the City, I remember I wrote it, I want to say it was it was Christmas Eve, I think I wrote it in the Sioux. And it was one of those ones I mean, I think this is total bullshit when anyone says it, like, oh, like, you know, the magic just happened and I wrote that song extremely quickly. And usually I'm much more sort of deliberate in writing. I'll take it when they come that quick, but usually they don't. But I remember that one being really quick, and yeah, that song still holds up. I still play that song live all the time.
Yeah, I love that one. That's great. That's very cool to know that you wrote it on Christmas Eve as well. That's a cool Easter egg.
Yeah, there you go.
And what about Emily?
That was the last song I wrote for the record. I remember I wrote it on the plane to Toronto for the last recording session. I think I might have had like the first verse or something. And I finished it on the plane and I recorded it. It's just one take, the first take. Yeah, I don't play that song anymore. It's very sad. It might be like the saddest thing I've ever written. It's like, my mom had a boyfriend when I was younger, and I imagined him calling to reconnect with her, and then to find out that she had passed away, someone he was once close with. So the story of that song is sort of that. It's fiction, but it feels real to me still. But yeah, that's like the story of that song, and I think we tacked it on to the very end because it just felt like this sort of melancholy way to end this record that was in a lot of spots like really heavy. Yeah, so that's the sort of story of that one.
That is a perfect way to end the record. I mean, it's almost like Butterfly at the end of Pinkerton, something like that. You know?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't really remember all the words, but I remember being really proud of it. Yeah.
And one of the more popular ones, I think it was like a hit off it, Darkness.
Oh yeah. I wrote that song when I was like 21. Another one that I remember specifically, like me and my band were in my basement of my house in the Sioux, and I had that chord progression, and I remember I was just playing through it, like trying to show them a new song if we could figure out something in it. And I remember singing the words like, "I followed you, darkness," and we're like, "Oh, okay, there's something there." And another one that I guess happened. I don't remember writing all the words, but I remember that moment when I was just sort of messing around, and you know, for me, and I think a lot of songwriters, when you're sort of in that like early stages of, you have some melodies and you have what you think is a verse and a chorus, and then a line pops out to you as you're sort of what I call like mumble singing or like gibberish singing. You're just singing syllables, you know, and sounds that feel good in the song, and then a line pops out. That's usually a really good sign that there's something in it. And you know, that one I had like the first line and the whole song right there. Yeah, so it was that one's. It's funny, like that's probably one of my in the top 5 most popular songs, and I had a song I wrote so early, like really young, really early. I want to say probably like 2010, 2011.
So you said you've traveled Canada, Europe. What was the favorite show that you played? Whether it was even an impromptu show at someone's house party you got invited to and you guys felt like picking up some acoustic guitars, or it was backstage.
We've never done that.
Never done it.
No, it's not my vibe. Favorite shows.
Even backstage. Do you ever jam backstage after?
No. Listen, we get paid to play in front of people. We're not gonna. Favorite shows. I mean, like honestly, my memory is so like awful for remembering shows. I mean, it's probably shows in Europe. I mean, we did so many shows in Europe that were really good, and bigger than we were playing in Canada at the time. And you know, you're seeing the world and you're playing your songs. Like it's crazy. So yeah, I'd probably say somewhere, I don't know, probably in Germany, Switzerland maybe. Those were always sort of the best countries. We've played a lot of big shows in Canada too. I remember we opened for Charlotte Cardin, who's like a really big Quebec artist. And we played Metropolis in Montreal, which is like a venue I've seen a lot of shows at. Like I've seen, the National and Sufjan Stevens and Wilco and all these bands I've seen play there. And it's, it's a big room, like really big. And we got to play there and it was super fun and it was sold out. And I'd say that was a really good opening experience for sure.
Where did you think of Hotline Bling to come up with that cover?
My manager told me to cover it. So I sort of, it's a really good song. So I sort of found my own way in it and, put my spin on it, and we recorded it in a day and then just threw it up online. And now it's got, 10 million streams or something across all the platforms, something stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
if
how
it
does
makes
that
anyone
work?
really that happy, but
I think it's a great song. I think it's a great
cool.
cover.
Yeah,
I think it
turned
does
out
make a lot of
great.
people happy.
It's it's funny. I don't know. It's something we put online and it connected with people. I think the timing was really good. We did it like a week after the song came out, so we sort of rode that wave because it was a massive single, massive hit.
And now I don't know how all that works, but is it something like, do covers work that you have to contact Drake's party and say, hey, we'd like to cover this song, or you can just do it?
No. Yeah, I mean, he gets all of the publishing money because he wrote it. But no.
But you get all the
just
press,
cover
I
it.
guess, or something? Is
Yeah,
that
sure.
how it works?
Press doesn't pay the bills, but yeah, I mean, like I've made Drake some money for sure. I'm sure he doesn't care, and I'm sure other people have made him plenty of more money.
Have you not met him?
No, I've never met him.
Just curious. I mean, you think maybe you would bump
I guess
into
I would
each
have
other
something
in
to say to him. Yeah. Yeah, you like
strike it up next time.
You like that 50 grand I made you?
Oh, well, that's great, man. This has been great going over some of the things your career here, and thank you for coming on. And one thing before we go, just want to let you know that we do a little thing here called the Gauntlet.
Okay.
What shape is the sky?
Rectangle.
Where does the time go?
I mean, good question. I don't know.
Why is a boxing ring square?
Because you need corners.
Which apocalyptic dystopia is most possible? Zombies, cannibals, Mad Max, Hunger Games, Black Mirror.
I'm not familiar with all of those. I mean, Black Mirror, because there's already, it's a little too on the nose for me at times. I think it's ridiculous. But there's probably things in that have already happened, especially in the past year or so.
Now, do you think if that apocalyptic dystopia happened, that would be the one that you would thrive in?
No, I don't think I'd thrive in any of them.
Why are we here?
Probably just to procreate.
What does the world need most?
It probably needs to get rid of the internet, honestly. I think the world would be a lot better if we got rid of the internet. I think it's already, we're well past I think you and I are close-ish in age. I was the last generation that really didn't grow up with the internet, I think. And I think we could easily go back, and I think a lot of things would be better. I think the ratio is a little skewed at this point.
Yeah, actually, to some extent, I consider it an advantage. I'm both digital and analog compatible. We experience the best of both worlds.
I mean, I guess maybe it's social media. I think if we got rid of all of that, think people would be better off. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much, man. You made it through the gauntlet.
As I say that on a podcast, that's going to be promoted on social media. Really helping you out here.
Made it through the gauntlet. Thank you so much, Kalle Mattson. This is episode 17. Kalle, just stick around after I sign off here. And
Okay.
we'll see you next time, folks. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time.